Janosa, and I'm part of BookOrators, a global student organization that aims to instill a love for literature in youth. As part of our guest speaker series, we are joined by Eugene Ostashevsky, an author and professor at NYU, who wrote The Pirate Who Does Not Know the Value of Pi, along with many other poetry anthologies, and was published by NYRB Poets in 2017. We are so excited to have you here today with us to talk to us and our viewers.
It's a pleasure to be here. Here's the book in its final form. There's actually several forms of the book, and I don't have whatever. This is the American book in its final form. There's also a bilingual German that a friend of mine translated. And then there's this one, which I did with an artist, which is much shorter and has different pictures. It's a book, I guess it's a book of poetry. I mean, it's a book written largely in poetry, but it has a story. It's a bit like a children's book, and it's a bit not like a children's book. It's about a pirate and a parrot, and how hard it is to be, what it's like to be friends with somebody who's very different from you, because pirates and parrots are pretty different from one another. And towards the end of the book, they have a shipwreck and they wind up on a deserted island where there's only two of them, and they sit around and talk about what it's like to be on a deserted island. The book is about talking. It's about talking to other people, learning to know other people, how hard it is to learn to know other people, how hard it is to understand what another person is thinking. I'm not a parrot. I don't have a parrot. I'm not a pirate either. In lots of ways, it's a book about immigration. It's a book about immigration, and it's a book about communication between cultures. So yeah, it's definitely based on personal experience, because I immigrated when I was a kid. When I was 11, I came to the States from Russia. I grew up in the States, but now I live in Germany, and the end of the book was written in Germany. So it's about, what it's like to be in a foreign place, or what it's like to talk to somebody from afar. The book is about multilingualism in a lot of ways. If you live in the States, there's a kind of strange situation with languages in the States, in that in some ways we're a very multilingual society, but we're a society where, with some exception for Spanish speakers, the basic assumption is that if you're not a native English speaker, your children will be. So there's a kind of privileging, if that makes sense, of English. So I don't know, when you read books that have foreign words in them, everything is explained for the benefit of the English speaker. And it's also English is a very special language in that it's a global language. This makes us extraordinarily powerful, but it also prevents us from knowing other cultures on their own terms. The fact that we, not everywhere, but a lot of places we go where we'll find people who speak our language. There's a certain danger in that. The pirate book is multilingual. I mean, it's written in English. There's sometimes a foreign word here or there in it, but it's a funny English. It's an English that constantly changes. Some parts of it are written in forms of English that are a few hundred years old. Some of parts of it are written in wrong English, intentionally wrong English. So there are different kinds of English. There's educated English, there's not very educated English. In lots of ways, the book is also about the experience of learning another language. There's a point in the book where you find out, it should be obvious, but no one ever thinks about this, is that the parrot is not a native speaker of English. So there's a conflict between the pirate and the parrot about, who has the rights to English, right? The person who speaks it or the person who's born speaking it, because it's not the same group of people. So there's a lot of thinking about language in the book. For example, there's a section in the book where there's a lot of songs, right? So there's lots of different kinds of English. There's, for example, there's a piece that's hip hop, right? Or then there's another piece that is more like 19th century sailor songs, except it's a parody of that. So there are many different ways of speaking in the book. I mean, I received help in the forms of I won prizes, and that let me take time off work, which you really need when you're writing. You need to focus. It's very hard to teach, prepare for class, and then, by the time you're finished grading papers and preparing for the next class, you're dead. You don't really have much time for your own projects. So my university gave me some time off. A lot of years. I was working almost all of the time, but when I was putting it together at the end, I needed time off. And I wrote it in, it's not easy to, I'm a slow writer. Some people just go, and sometimes, you find yourself at a dead end. You're writing, but it doesn't come out the way you want it, but you don't know how to put it in any other way.
Yeah.
And then you put it aside, and then a month later you look at it and it's like, oh, that's what I can do. I like reading old things. I like reading things that are not necessarily, the first thing that you find in bookstores. But also what really inspires is listening to people, listening to the way people talk, people you don't necessarily know. Sometimes it works with people you know. I have two kids. I have a 6-year-old and almost a 12-year-old who are growing up German English bilingual. So I write down things that they say, because children are very, very creative with language in the way that adults are not. And that's a huge inspiration for me. So listening to kind of not normal language, not TV language, to the way people talk when they're relaxed, writing things down. I think for a young writer, it's very important to be recording the way people talk around her. Sometimes maybe record them on an iPhone, on a phone, and then write it down at home, because the kind of melodies you get from people speaking, the kind of expressions you get, are often more interesting than what you read in a book that's been edited and ironed and made available for everybody. And it's also very important to watch people talk and to think about how people talk. Like, for example, my book is done in voices. I had voices in my head when I was doing it. So the pirate speaks in a pirate voice. The parrot speaks in a little parrot voice. So it sounds like this. I'm going to read you a piece so that you hear the way that, where does happiness come from? Asks the parrot. Wow, did you just ask that? Says the pirate, who doesn't know the value of pi. Yeah, why? Says the parrot. I don't know, but what kind of question is that? Asks the pirate. I'm just a pirate. They're sitting on the sand. Palms are waving in the air behind them. They're staring at the waves. The pirate is holding her cocktail. Where does happiness come from? asked the parrot. Where does your happiness come from? Asked the pirate. I feel happy when I'm having an abstract thought, says the parrot. But that occurs very rarely. Why? Asks the parrot. Because I'm not so intelligent, says the parrot. This is my great inner grief. You're much more intelligent than me, says the pirate, who doesn't know the value of pi. I know, says the parrot, but it's not enough. They're sitting on the sand. Palms are waving in the air behind them. They're staring at the waves. The pirate is holding what's he holding? My happiness, says the pirate, who doesn't know the value of pi, mostly comes from the way some ray of light falls on some surface of water. You mean incidence and reflection? Asked the pirate. Yes, but no, says the pirate. It's a beautiful thought in any case, says the parrot. Why do you turn away? Asked the pirate. So you see, it's about kind of catching the rhythms of people talking, and not necessarily about here's the thing that I want to say and I'm going to say it. I do, yeah. I do a lot of stuff with the internet. I studied kind of the way people speak and the way people used to speak. For example, because I'm working on pirates and parrots, I actually spent a lot of time on databases of old books, like on Google Scholar, but there are special databases for, English books from the time of Shakespeare, for example. And I do searches for pirates, parrots, for other keywords. I look at the sentences that come up. I look at the way things are phrased. And I take them down. And very often it gives me ideas, and sometimes I use them directly. Sometimes I change them. And sometimes it tells me things that I didn't know about pirates and parrots. So it makes me look at my characters in a new way. I spent days and days and days sitting on the internet trying to find particular things, and then days and days combining them. It's very, very important. Like, some people like to have everything down beforehand. They want to know their characters before they write, in the very beginning. They plot things out. That doesn't work for me, maybe because I'm a poet, but when I try to do that, everything comes out flat and kind of boring. I need improvisation. So it's really, I started the book with just this pretty cliche idea of pirate and a parrot, and I kept writing until they took on characters of their own and took on lives of their own. Yeah, I'm not joking about the end of the book. It's true. To listen to other people's language, right? I think very often for writers, whether you're a beginning writer or not a beginning writer, you sit there and you're like, God, what can I say? What can possibly be so important for me to say? Because we live in a culture where the message is important, right? When people talk about a movie or they talk about a book, they talk about its message very often. That's wrong. If you think about the message, it's not going to work. You should be an observer. Listen how people talk. Watch how people phrase things. Watch how you yourself speak and how you yourself describe people doing weird things. Put off thinking about the moral. Put off thinking about, what am I saying? Once you start saying, oh, what am I saying? What am I saying? You're in trouble. So listen and write things down, and then play with what you have. Think of it as a form of play, not as some kind of, public announcement. And then it'll be alive. Play is fun. So that's what I would say. Yeah, if you have younger brothers and sisters, listen to them very carefully. Especially ones that are like between, I don't know, let's say 2 and 6, 1 and 6, right? Because they're in this phase of learning a language and they're really, really creative with a language in a way that even teenagers can't be. So learn a lot, write down what they say, pay attention to what they say, record them. Like, if you have a little brother or sister, take a notebook where you write things down about this little brother or sister. And it'll teach you lots and lots and lots of things about language, about the way people speak, but also the way people think, the way people learn to think. Even math, like the way people think about math. When you talk, and both of my daughters have gone through this age. I think the 6-year-old is still in this age where numbers are separate for them. So they kind of need to remember what number comes after what number. It doesn't, it's not connected to like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that it's +1 every time. There's a phase in which they need to remember it. And that's very interesting. If you imagine a world where 5 comes after 4, not because of any reason, but because you just agreed to it. Right? It's a world where all the connections are arbitrary. So you learn a lot from little kids, but you also learn a lot from each other.
Thank you so much for speaking with us today, Eugene, and I'm sure our viewers enjoyed the conversation and insight gained as much as I did. Stay on the lookout for the next installment of our speaker series. Remember to check out our website, BookOrators.org, and follow us on Facebook and Instagram for updates at BookOrators. See you next time.